First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lecturers, everyone here today. So for this opportunity to continue talking about the Heart Sutra. Last week we finished. Well, I guess we talked about kind of some background, and then so here today we're gonna kind of get into the sutra, the actual text. So this is in Chinese, anyways. This is the Heart Sutra. The title, Mo He Bo Ro Mi Do Xing Jing. Okay, and then the text. This is kind of divided into two columns here, but so a total of 260 words or characters here. This part here, that the first, this is essentially the first, I don't know, like the first sentence or two. This is kind of like the introduction, or yeah, you can say it's the introduction, or it kind of sets the theme for the whole sutra. You can say it's kind of like a summary, like an executive summary of the whole thing. Okay, so we'll start with talking about with this part here, right? So it says, so this is Guan Zi Zai Pusa, right? And then actually the pinyin here is not right, but normally it's pronounced Xing and then Xing Sen Bo Ro Mi Do Shi, but it's actually, I guess, supposed to be pronounced Heng Sen Bo Ro Mi Do Shi. And Zhao Jian Wu Ying Jie Kong Du Yi Che Kua. Okay, so this is kind of, you can say the summary. All right, so let's see, go ahead. Okay, so the first few words, Guan Zi Zai Pusa, right? You can say, if you take the first three together, Guan Zi Zai, okay, so that's in the Chinese they use this to refer to Avalokitesvara. That's Guanyin Bodhisattva. Okay, and if you look at the translations of the scriptures or the explanations, they typically will say that basically this script or this sutra, is spoken by Avalokitesvara, right? And spoken and kind of in talking to or addressing Sariputra, which is one of the Buddha's the disciples. And so anyways, this is if you want to take these three together, then that's referring to Avalokitesvara. Okay, so and it's kind of saying, Avalokitesvara. Bodhisattva, right? Pusa here is Bodhisattva. So this whole thing you can say is Avalokita or Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. Okay, that's referring to the title of the Bodhisattva. On the other hand, if you just take that first word, Guan, which it means observe, all these things: observe, examine, contemplate, reflect on, enlighten through insight or concentration. Okay. This is obviously now Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva had achieved enlightenment through this process, okay, of this Guan. Okay, so that's why they use this to refer to Avalokitesvara. All right. And then so the next two words, zizai, basically means free or unrestrained, right? Is you can say carefree. In Buddhism, this term means like free from delusion or sovereignty. There's basically you have it's basically this Buddha nature has sovereignty over things. Okay, so is in charge. All right, so that's really being free. Okay, so we think, we're free, right? We have democracy. We're free. We have all these freedoms, all these rights. Okay, but that's not true freedom, right? So this is freedom from, the sutra is talking about, it's free from all the, you can say, well, the typical human experience, okay, the five skandhas that we talk about a lot, is free from that, right? And that's really what sets us free. Ultimately, it's free from karma, free from the cycle of rebirth, okay, it's samsara, suffering. All right, that's really what's most important, right? Ultimately, I mean, we can have all the freedoms we want here. I can buy, own a gun. I can do whatever I want. But ultimately, I'm going to suffer and I'm going to die and I'm going to continue to suffer life after life. Okay, so that's not freedom, right? So that's very short-sighted. So this is like the big view, the ultimate freedom. Okay, and then pusa. Okay, so yeah, so you can say there are two different ways to interpret this. The typical way would be, this is Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara's title. And then the kind of more, I guess, maybe the subtle way is saying to enlighten to the unrestrained Bodhisattva, or the one that's free, right? Free from delusion. And so, yeah, because Avalokitesvara was speaking the sutra, and so this, on the surface, it's saying, Avalokitesvara, that's what Avalokitesvara is doing. But you can say kind of at a more subtle level, it's saying this is what we should be doing, okay? And so this part, you can say, the enlightened to the unrestrained bodhisattva, or Buddha nature, then you can say is that the first half of the Mingxing Jianxing, right? To enlighten the mind, right? So we need to enlighten our mind, enlighten ourselves with wisdom, with the divine wisdom, okay? And then we can do the second half, right? Okay, so okay. But yeah, so we have to use the divine wisdom, okay, this prajna wisdom, and then we can truly self-reflect and realize the essence of mind, or our Buddha nature, or the true self, all right? So the sutra does tell us how Avalokitesvara realized sunyata, or emptiness, but it's also telling us to do the same, right? So that's kind of like the subtext, if you will, the meaning underneath. However, because we are not at that same level, right? We're not a bodhisattva. We haven't cultivated that well, right? We're not at that advanced level. It may not be as easy, to kind of achieve that kind of insight into emptiness, right? And just to be able to realize it in an instant. Okay, for us, it's probably none of us can do that, right? So we have to practice. Right? We have to, at the same time, we have to try to change our views, our wrong views. So we have to try to first adopt the correct views, the right views, which is the Four Noble Truths and everything else, or including this sunyata concept of emptiness about things. But that for us right now, it's just knowledge, right? It's just something that we know, and it's kind of like a definition. Okay, so but it has no. It's just a concept. There's no reality to it, right? So we haven't realized emptiness, and for us to do that, though, we need to practice. Okay, so it's kind of like trying to approach it from both ends, right? Okay. All right. Now so it mentioned the liberated, the free, the unrestrained, or the free from delusion. Okay, so basically the bodhisattva is that, or the Buddha nature. So I guess we can call this the 10 liberations, or you can say 10 freedoms, 10 emancipations. Basically, there's no obstructions. Okay, so the Buddha nature, or bodhisattvas and Buddhas, they have no obstructions. There's nothing that would obstruct them in these 10 ways. Okay, so the 10 ways are, first is the lifespan. So essentially they can choose how long they want to live. They can live. Okay, so because they've already transcended karma, right? There's karma does not have a hold on them. Okay, because well, for one, they don't create any karma. And if all their karma has, and they're not, right? They letting go of all karmic affinities, right? So whatever karmic seeds that they may have had, they kind of they don't sprout and bear fruit. Okay, so anyways, they can decide how long to live. Okay, if when they're in this world, and then the liberation of the mind is basically the mind and essence, right? Basically, the mind and the Buddha nature are one, right? Whatever they do, whatever they say, whatever they're thinking, everything, their consciousness is all according is in accordance with the Buddha nature. So everything is. So the concepts that we talk about, right? Wu Wei, the no intention, right? Sui Yuan, the according to the affinities, all these they do. It's just kind of that's it. It's automatic. There's no subjectivity. They have no subjective view anymore. Okay, because there's no ego, right? They have no attachments, no four images, no three minds. All right. Okay. The third one, liberation of the means. What this means is basically they will have the necessary, you can say, the means of, to do what they need to do to survive or to carry out their mission, right? So they won't be lacking or in need of things like food, for example, or clothing or whatever it is. Things will always work out for them. That even though they may be poor, for example, let's say a lot of times when bodhisattvas incarnate in the world to carry out a mission, basically to try to save sentient beings, to ferry sentient beings. They generally appear as like beggars or it's not what we would normally think of. Okay, but but even though they're like beggars, they won't starve to death. Okay, so the means of living or survival or being able to carry out their mission, that will all be taken care of. Okay, and then the fourth one is free from karma. All right, because basically they've achieved the realization of sunyata, of the emptiness of everything. Okay, so there's no the five skandhas. They don't. That has no hold over them. That does not influence. That doesn't affect them at all. Right? There's no subjectivity. There's no ego. There's right, and then so they don't plant any seeds of karma. And the fifth liberation here is birth, or you can say choice of life, right? So they can choose again to come into this world. This would be called the Nirmanakaya, okay, the transformation body. They can come into this world as a human. That's typical. Or they can even be an animal. They can be a tree. They can be a rock. Whatever is appropriate to whatever they want to accomplish. Okay, so they can do all those. Then the next one is let's see, insight. Okay, so this is like they have penetrating transcendental insight. So this is like there's a direct knowledge. We have to use the word knowledge, but direct knowledge into you can say the true reality, into the reality of things, of everything. Okay, and then The next one is theurgy. Okay, so theurgy is basically transcendental powers. All right, transcendental powers that comes naturally with at that level. Okay, they're generally they're like these six. Okay, but basically, they include like you can say psychic powers or abilities. And there are other abilities of like, let's say you can go anywhere you want, be anywhere you want. Okay, so these are special transcendental powers, but I mean it's not something that we are looking for or want to practice to achieve, right? Because it just comes naturally, right? The next one is the will, or basically resolve, and the vows, right? They take vows and they make vows and they try they will fulfill them. Okay, no matter how long it takes, right? It's forever essentially. Just like Avalokitesvara has the vow to save all sentient beings, right? So that there are no more suffering sentient beings. Well, at this rate, at the rate we're going, that could be forever. Okay, but to them, they're undaunted by that. Okay, the time frame, how long it's going to take, or how great this you can say vow or mission is. Right, it doesn't faze them. Right, it's like they have this will, they have this resolve. They're just going to do it. Now, obviously, they're at their level because they don't have the three minds. They're not stuck on time. They don't have this attachment to or concept of time that we have. Right, for them, actually, everything is just in the moment. Right, so when they do things, it's in the moment. There's nothing. They're not thinking about how many sentient beings can I ferry tomorrow. They don't think about that. Okay, it's just in the moment. They just do what they need to do. Okay. All right, and then the next one is the wisdom, right? So this is obviously the Prajna wisdom, the divine wisdom. This is the ultimate wisdom so they achieve that. And then finally, the last one is, the Dharma. Okay, so that's basically liberation of the Dharma is free from all phenomena, all dharmas. Okay, so there's no attachment, right? No attachment at all to any of that. And so, the five skandhas are part of that. So, so basically, what we want to do is to use for us. Well, it's saying also for the bodhisattva, but to use this mind of wisdom to observe and perceive the true reality of all dharmas. Okay, dharmas in this case is phenomena, all you can say forms and non-forms. Okay, so realize the emptiness of the five skandhas and dependent origination. Okay, so that's what it's going to talk about later on. But basically, those are the five skandhas. Why it's so important to understand and to understand this is our experience is built or based upon the process. You can say it's kind of like a process of the five skandhas. And the five skandhas are a section of the links of dependent origination. So, you can simplify this and say just five skandhas, because if you can address the five skandhas, then the dependent origination goes away too. All right, so that's why we want to look at the five skandhas more closely. All right. Okay. So the next, it says, so Avalokitesvara is Shing, the typical pronunciation that you'll hear is Shing, is practicing, right? But when it's like hung, it's really more like you're very accomplished, okay? So very accomplished practice. So like a very advanced practitioner. And then the second one, sun, okay, is just deep or deeply or profoundly. Okay, so and then what follows? Let's see, these the next Bora, Bolo, Mi, Do. Okay, so that's Prajna Paramita. Okay, so the Bora is Prajna, and then the next four is Paramita. So we've seen this before. Okay, so basically practicing or accomplishing the practice of the Prajna Paramita, which is the perfection of divine wisdom. Right, so that's what it's saying, that Avalokitesvara was doing that. Okay, and then shi, okay, that word it just means time. Typically, although I saw someone also or some kind of interpret this to mean 见证. I mean 正见, which means right view, having right view. Right view, you can also say is like is to be in the moment, right? You're in the moment. There is no past, present, future. There is no attachment, no four images. Okay, and so, but I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know. Interpreting it this way is, I don't know. It's kind of a stretch, but I guess it can be done, right? So, but the typical translation would be, while deeply immersed in Prajna Paramita, while Avalokitesvara is deeply immersed in the practice of this. Okay, but we could say the subtext would be, to achieve the perfection of wisdom through accomplished practice of profound contemplation. So this is kind of like talking to us as opposed to describing what Avalokitesvara is doing. Okay, so that's kind of the subtext. It's telling us this is what we should do. Okay, so this is kind of like the second half of that Ming Xing Jian Xing. So this is beholding the essence, whereas that first one was enlightening the mind. Okay, so once we perfected the wisdom, then obviously our mind is very clear, and it is basically one with the Buddha nature. Okay, so we behold the essence at that point. All right, so we need to turn our mind inward to examine and contemplate the Buddha nature, right? Then we can achieve the perfection of wisdom. Now, obviously, in our practice, we do have to use, so it's like the six paramitas, right? There's, okay, so this is one of them, right? The wisdom, and then we also need to use our diligence, and also concentration. So it's like the last three of the six paramitas together in this practice, right? Now, when you hear people say, I'm enlightened. Actually, when we hear that, we should realize that that person is not enlightened, right? Anyone who's enlightened will not say they're enlightened, right? Because if they say that, I'm enlightened, that means they still have ego, right? They still have that I, the attachment to I, right? The four images is still there. So anyone who is enlightened will never say they are enlightened, right? If you look at all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, none of them say that they are enlightened. Okay, even the Buddha, initially he said, I am awakened. Okay, I am awake, right? As opposed to say I am enlightened, right? So, so that's something to keep in mind, that our ego is so prevalent, is so it's always there, and we have to learn to try to reduce it, right? Shrink it, and get rid of it ultimately. Right? All right, so basically we use the divine wisdom to instantly realize that all forms of phenomena are void, or they have this void nature to them, sunyata. Right? Now, I mentioned earlier that direct insight. Okay, you can say there are three different kind of levels of insight, or three types, three levels. Okay, the first one is the typical one that we use, bi liang, which is reasoning, normal reasoning, right? We compare things, and then we make inferences, or we deduction, or so that is our normal thought process, right? of how we deal with everything, right? Is this way. This is how we do it. So that's there's nothing really special about that. The other one though, 限量, that's the direct insight. So this is what the bodhisattvas, anyone who's have that achievement, at that level of achievement, they have this ability to have that direct insight and comprehension. Okay, so that's called vipassana. Okay, and then you can say it's noumenon. So that basically this insight comes from within, right? It's not based on how much knowledge you know, how much knowledge you have. Okay, it has nothing to do with that. It's completely from within, from that wisdom, that prajna, that divine wisdom. Okay, and also from that divine awareness that I mentioned before. All right. So this is so it's using the divine wisdom to gain that insight, and not based on knowledge. And then this third one is also a little different too, but it's similar. It's basically 圣言量. Okay, so basically direct penetrating insight from listening to the words of enlightened beings. Oh, this is interesting. So in other words, if you had this type of insight and you listen to, let's say, the Buddha talking or speaking the sutra, the Dharma, then you would gain direct insight into it. Okay, so you can basically become enlightened that way. Now, basically like the sixth patriarch, right, Huineng, or before he became the sixth patriarch, right, when he heard the words of the Diamond Sutra, suddenly something clicked in his mind, right? He kind of he knew, this is something very. He had like the direct insight into the Diamond Sutra, okay, into those words. Even though he's an illiterate, right? So he has. So this is going beyond normal knowledge, the knowledge that we understand and know. Okay, so this is what wisdom, that divine wisdom, will give us. Okay, can give us. All right. But obviously, so we have to get to that level to really achieve this. So, all right. But that, the bodhisattvas, so they've achieved, they have this abilities. Okay, so the next is 照见五蕴皆空. Okay, so basically, 照见 is, you can say, is to illuminate and to expose. Okay, through the penetrating insight. Right? 五蕴 is the five skandhas, okay, also known as their aggregates or heaps, okay, and that kong means empty, okay, so in this case, it's the empty or emptiness. So basically, to clearly perceive or this again referring to Avalokitesvara, clearly perceive the empty nature of the five skandhas, while I think basically while immersed in that Prajna Paramita. All right. And then for basically, you can say also interpret this as illuminate and perceive the emptiness of five skandhas, and it's kind of telling us again that that's what we need to do. Okay. The emptiness basically, so the five skandhas are really devoid. They're without the self-nature or essence, right? So remember, anatta, something we've talked about in the past. There is no self-nature. No, it's, in other words, it doesn't exist by itself. Okay, so if something is anatta, it cannot exist by itself. So the five skandhas cannot exist by themselves, right? That's important. The only thing that exists by itself is what we call the Buddha nature, okay, the self nature. Everything else is dependent, right? So here, dependent on causes and conditions, right? Hence, it is the core of the links of dependent origination, right? So yeah, it's all conditional. It's all conditional, right? The problem is we well, as sentient beings, we take these five. I mean, we don't, obviously we don't think of the five. It's just that we're going through this process, and we believe in that process. It just seems real to us. Okay, it just seems so real to us, and that is so that kind of defines our reality. But it's unfortunately it's not a true reality. Okay, because it's all conditional. It's all subjective. Okay, all right. So basically, if or when we have achieved the perfection of wisdom through deep contemplation and and penetrating insight, everything will be clear, and we can illuminate and perceive the emptiness of the five skandhas. This is the ideal way of eliminating ignorance and delusion, because actually ignorance and delusion, they come from the five skandhas. Right? So this is how the Bodhisattva does it, by realizing the emptiness of body and forms. However, we sentient beings are not as enlightened, and we can't do it in the same way because it would take too long, right? I mean, we don't have that wisdom. That's the problem. We don't have enough of that. We haven't, you can say, released or that wisdom. Okay, and so it will take, who knows how long it would take. Many kalpas or eons, right, of lifetimes. But the one thing is the same, is that what we are cultivating, what we are trying to realize. What we are really cultivating is, the heart and mind. Basically, that's really what the problem is. The core of the problem is in there. Okay, so we have to address that. All right, and we can kind of do that by understanding the five skandhas and trying to break, you can say, break those links. Okay, break that process, or don't let it. The process is probably there. It's just that how we, how it works, I guess. Okay. Okay, so when the five skandhas are perceived to be real, right, they give rise to attachment, subject-object duality, the four images, etc. All those things. Now, what we perceive or experience through the five skandhas is only a subjective reality, right? So we all know that everyone's idea of reality, of how things are, is all subjective, right? Even though we say, well, I can say measure scientifically measure, like, the temperature right now is, let's say it's 70 degrees, and in this room, and there are a bunch of people in this room. But even though we can say, hey, that temperature, it's absolute, right? It's 70 degrees. You can measure it at every point in the room, and it's the same. But everyone in that room will experience it differently, right? So that makes it subjective, right? So one person may feel that it's just right, perfect temperature. Another person might feel that it's a little bit too warm. Another person might feel that it's a little bit too cold. Okay, so that's all subjective. That makes our individual realities all subjective, right? So that's not the true reality, right? Okay, so right. Yeah, so it's so basically this subjective reality, it all begins when sentient beings became ignorant by giving rise to a thought, right? So we always say, let go of all karmic affinities and don't give rise to a single thought. Okay. Before I talk more about that, it says, okay, so basically it's not easy to change our views. Okay, so remember, we were so immersed in the way of how we deal with reality, or how we experience reality through the five skandhas. And so this has been going on for who knows how long, right? Well, since the beginning, or whenever that is, basically. But since since we became basically ignorant and delusional, is when this all started. Okay, all right. Now, so not giving rise to a single thought. Remember, when we say that, right? Actually, if you really understand what this means, so that ignorance comes about when let's see. When when we give rise to a single thought. So what does that mean? That's really not the thought. Okay, so this is pre-thought. Okay, haven't had the thought yet. Okay, so it's talking about before the thought. Okay, it could be feeling, it could be inclination. There's an intent. Okay, basically that is what that means. So when we say do not give rise to a single thought, right? We don't have those thoughts, but actually it's before that. We cannot have these pre-thoughts. We cannot have the feelings, inclinations, intents that come up before the thought. Okay, so that's really what that means, that phrase, letting go of karmic affinities and not give rise to a single thought. It's not giving rise to these things. Okay, so basically in Chinese, they say qi xin dong nian. Okay, so this here, then that's ignorance, wu ming. Okay, so, and basically what it's saying is the heart and mind is aroused. Okay, that's the qi xing. The heart and mind is aroused. So it's aroused. That doesn't mean there's a thought. Okay, it means it's before the thought. There's a feeling. Some kind of inclination or intention. Okay, so but those you don't necessarily have to have a thought yet. It's basically it's influenced or enticed by the conditions and the forms. Okay, so and that's the definition of ignorance. Okay, so if we are affected by conditions, then forms as well, and we become attached. We have desires, right? So the arousal could be like desires as well. Okay, so those things, when they arise, then we are basically ignorant. Okay, that's the definition of ignorance. All right, so that's why we have to be very careful. We have to understand that. Now. Okay, so obviously this requires a major shift in how we view everything. So that's why the key to achieving divine wisdom and eliminating ignorance and delusion is to have the right view. Okay, so that's why Buddha, that's the first thing he talked about in his teachings, the right view. Okay, the Four Noble Truths. Okay, starting from that. That is the most important thing. That's directly addressing the ignorance issue. Okay. All right. So let's. Okay. So this, now we talk about the five skandhas, right? Here it's actually okay. The first one is not listed here. The first one being form or body. Okay. So that's the physical aspect. The rest, these four, sensation, conception, volition, and consciousness, all relate to our mind, our consciousness. So it's mind and then body. Okay, so the first one is the body. These are in the mind. But these four relate to those consciousness, the mind consciousnesses that we talk about. Okay, so sensation, right? This is talking about the five physical senses, right? Basically, this is our sense of sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. Okay, and so there's you can say that there's a basic level of consciousness there in that, or I maybe use the word awareness in that we can sense things. Okay, and so but the next one, so conception, you could say is the sixth, corresponds to the sixth. The sixth consciousness, what we talk about, the sixth consciousness. And that's basically where you have basic cognition, basic thinking, basic reasoning, okay, going on here. And what goes on here is also, well, okay, so the first one actually, in the sensation, or even in the body, in the first one, the mind, not the mind, but I mean the body and forms and objects, right? The first one, first skanda, you can say that there's also already a subject-object duality. It's basically body and object. Okay, same as this actually. But this is in the mind. The other one's a physical one. There's a separation, right? Distinction between our body and everything else. Okay, or our sense organs and everything else. Okay, and here it's kind of like the sense within the mind now that there is that subject-object duality of my body and the external objects. Okay, and then so at the conception level, there's also subject-object duality, which is the name and form. So basically, the forms that we're dealing with through our sensory perception, then we give names to those, right? We have names, labels, right? That's how we can, that's kind of pretty much how we function, right? We say, oh, I know, that's the sun, right? That's, or this is a clock, or this is whatever, right? We give names to those. Because it seems like without the names, how do we talk about things? And how do we communicate? Well, obviously for a bodhisattva, Buddha, they don't need to use words. They don't need to use language to communicate. Right? So for them, really, there's no need for this subject-object duality here of name and form. Okay, it's like direct mind-to-mind understanding, if you will. Okay, or connection, and and so there's no need. But for us, sentient beings, humans, we are still stuck with using name and form, okay, this subject-object duality. And this is where we do differentiation. So, and we have to do comparisons, right? So when we encounter some form, let's say it's a form that we've never encountered before, well, how do we make sense of it, right? We have to compare it to something. We have to compare it to something that we know, that we've experienced before. Say, oh, it's like this. I see something, I don't know what it is, but in my mind, I'm trying to figure out, based on what I've encountered before, is there anything that's like this? Okay, so we always do this comparison. And then potentially we have expectations here. But this, again, so here in conception, we already have a subjectivity, okay? Because just like what I mentioned before about the temperature, right? Even though the temperature coming in, you can say is the same sensation, but how we perceive it. So this, sometimes it's called perception here. How we perceive that temperature input, okay? And that could be different, so it's subjective. And then this is really, I kind of put ignorance here, that this is kind of where this is where we can have the ignorance. Okay, now the next level, so volition, then it's kind of a deeper level, deeper level of consciousness. It's the seventh consciousness, also known as the manas consciousness. This is where we do our more deeper thinking, and we have our feelings here. I guess maybe there's some feelings here, but this is kind of the more, the deeper, the more stronger feelings. Okay, so again, subject-object duality. This time, the ego is here, right? This is where we have the ego in form. So self and everything else. Okay, so we have the subject-object. So you can see already there's subject-object duality throughout the 5 skandhas. Okay, so it's kind of like the built-in thing, right? And this is where you do some deeper comparison, where you might be weighing, you weigh the let's say the cost, like you do a cost-benefit analysis, right? Or you might do some scheming, that's more deeper thinking. This is where we have our biases, our preferences. There's a greater amount of subjectivity here, right? Because it's all coming from the ego. We have our desires, attachments, and delusion. So I put, so here you can say it's kind of simple ignorance, not knowing things here, but here volition, this is where we're really deluded. Okay, this is the real delusion is here. It's basically the ego is deluded. Okay, so that they go together. Now this seventh consciousness is the acting boss of the sixth and eighth consciousness. Okay, these other two. I mean, this is all within our mind. Okay, so it's just you can say different aspects of the mind. Okay, but this is all happening within our mind. Okay, so this is just one way to kind of separate out the different parts of it or the different aspects. And so basically, yeah, the sixth can't deal with a lot of stuff, so then it passes on to the seventh, and the seventh does the more of the you can say the processing, and it also makes use of the eighth consciousness, which is kind of our memory, our experiences, where everything is stored. Again, here you have the subject object. Basically, this is where you have cause and effect. Okay, so the duality here, it's the field of karma, where the seeds of karma are planted. This is where we have our attachments. Okay, so everything, whatever the seventh says, oh, okay, yeah, this, whatever experience we have says store it here. Okay, it gets stored, and later on it might like pull out, recall some experiences from the eighth consciousness. Okay, so once it's using it, so when we say letting go of karmic affinities, right? So although maybe we've planted some seeds of karma in here, we don't want to make use to pull them out. Okay, to bring them out into our consciousness, into the seventh and sixth consciousness. All right, because when we do that, then the more we do that, the more likely it is that seed of karma will turn into a full-blown karmic result. Okay, so or consequence. So we have to let go of all karmic affinities. Don't try not to do that. And so not giving rise to single thought is also, you can say it's part of that, part of doing that. Okay, so both of those are related, because once the thought appears in here, right, or not even the thought, you have the desire, the intention appearing in our seventh consciousness, then it's kind of too late. We're not doing the letting go of karmic affinities. Okay, that we're we're kind of dwelling on those karmic affinities. All right. So let's see. Okay. All right. So okay, here we're going to do an example of the five skandhas. Now this is kind of maybe I should have done this last week, right? Because we were talking specifically about the five skandhas, but well, hey, there, just remind myself there. That's the three minds, right? Thinking of the past, right? So basically, we can't have attachments to the three minds. So don't, forget about the past right now. What's more important is right now in this moment. Okay. So basically, we're going to give you this this example. Now, in this example, so we're going to walk through this. Let's say you go shopping, right, in an Asian market one day, and basically you smell something. So this through our the smell sense. Okay, this is generally when we say fifth here, it doesn't mean the number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It means the first 5. Okay, those first 5 consciousness, taken as a kind of as a whole. Although in this case it's specifically the smell, right? But we kind of generally use this to refer to the first 5, or those 5 sense consciousnesses, right? Now, obviously, in every day, in every single moment, we're getting all sorts of input through all of our senses. Okay, so but here we're going to talk about a specific example. So we're talking about smell right now, right? Okay, so yeah, you smell something in the Asian market. Okay, so you start looking around and basically sniffing. Okay, so you say, hey, you're trying to identify that scent. And so this is where, you know, the name and form, okay, we're trying to associate the smell with the name or something familiar, right? Maybe it's something we smelled, we've never experienced that smell, that scent before, okay? So we don't know what it is, we don't have a name for it. But maybe we can come up with something that was similar, all right? You say, hey, wait a minute, doesn't that smell like natural gas? So you know, then you look around wondering why the other people don't smell it, right? So now you basically, now you think that this could be a dangerous situation, right? It says, oh my God, could it be a gas leak? Call 911, right? It says, okay, so you start looking around and people are starting to stare at you and they think maybe you're crazy. It's like, however, this, you know, friendly customer, he comes over and says, you don't know what that is, do you? That's the fine aroma of durian. So now we make there's this knowledge we're just given. Okay, so now actually that went through the sensation of hearing, because they spoke that to us and then they told us something. But I can't go through all the processes, you know, because it's just too complicated. But okay, so now we know it's durian. Okay, so we know about this form. The durian is a fruit. Okay, in case you don't know what that is. And he says, that's okay. So that's the fine aroma of durian. It's the king of fruits. Okay, now. Okay, so now you feel a little embarrassed about about giving the false alarm, and maybe you want to leave the store with a bag over your head. But because you are maybe one of the few who is not completely put off by the smell, right? You're curious to meet the king of fruits, right? So you follow your nose and finally get to meet King Durian face to face. Okay, so there he is. So so now we want to go to, this is the first time we set eyes on it. So we have our sight sensation, and we're going to have touch, because we're going to pick it up and feel it and see what it's like. All right. So basically, oh, by the way, durian, it's one of the fruits that we don't offer in the temple because it has a very like a very powerful scent. Okay, it's odor or smell. Or aroma, and you know, so it would really fill up the entire temple with that smell, and you know, and as we'll get to, this is not, it's not everyone enjoys that smell. All right, so okay, so anyways, upon meeting King Durian, you're awestruck by its appearance, right? Its color, size, and shape. Right? It looks kind of like a spiny football, I guess. And basically, okay, and you pick it up and feel its weight and texture. It feels kind of heavy, like a melon, right? But it has some hard shell with spikes on it, right? So that, I mean, you can see from that, from the picture, right? Now, while in this moment of awe, you forget about the powerful aroma. Now, you think maybe durian could be a royal fruit worthy of its title, right? But as they say, the proof is in the pudding. Okay, so now we know what it looks like and smells like, but what is it really? I mean, but is it really the best fruit ever, right? Or the king of fruits? Now it could be okay. So now the experience. So obviously we record this experience. Just like previously, we record a smell experience that goes into our eighth consciousness. This experience now, we have a little bit more experience with this thing, with this durian, and we remember its characteristics. And yeah, it has that rotten egg smell. Okay, well, I guess it depends on who you ask, you know, as far as what it smells like. But okay. All right, so then, you know, it could be risky buying a whole fruit, right? So, but you're lucky because the store, you know, they're willing to cut a piece for you. Okay, so, but anyways, out of curiosity, you want to taste it. All right, so we want to get to the next thing, which is, all right, so now we see the inside. Oh, okay, so again, now we're going to get to the taste, all right? So basically, so what does it look like inside, right? It's nothing, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Now, perhaps, what? Maybe it looks like an alien egg. I don't know. I mean, could be. Well, it doesn't matter, right? It's time for the taste test, right? Since it looks kind of soft, you scoop up a spoonful of it, right? But before you put it into your mouth, you look admiringly at the color and texture and imagine what it will taste like, okay? So as you put it into your mouth, it melts like butter. Wow, what amazing flavor and texture. After savoring the moment, you realize that it tastes like a combination of ice cream and pudding, or I don't know, something like that. Okay, so, and now you realize that, oh, King Durian truly deserves his title, right? It's like manna from heaven. I have to go out and get more. Right? How silly of me to mistaken it for the smell of rotten eggs when it really smells like perfume. I'm in love. Okay, so this is some people, this is how they respond to durian. Okay, how they react to it, right? Or the taste of durian. And so this is basically, yeah. I mean, but obviously this is everything is all subjective. Okay. Now, so here we've changed our view of the smell, whereas initially we thought, it smelled like natural gas, which smells like rotten eggs. But now after we've eaten it, tasted it, hey, we think, man, that smells like perfume, man, that's great. Okay, so we've changed our view. Okay, so this is all views, everything it's all conditional, okay? It can change based on the conditions. So basically we record a great experience in our eighth consciousness, says, yeah, I will never forget this moment, right? The time I fell in love with King Durian, okay? And you make a note to yourself, says, okay, let's go to Malaysia to savor the fresh durian, because all you can get here is frozen durian, or maybe canned durian, or dried durian. But it comes, typically, I think they come from Malaysia, and you can get it fresh there, and that's where they consider it the king of fruits, all right? Okay, so this is, we now have a attachment and desire for this durian, all right? So why do we have, why do we have this reaction or response, right? It's due to conditioning, okay, due to conditioning. We compare to prior experience. If it's similar to a good experience, then we will consider it to be good, right? Now, is there a beginning to this? The only thing we can do is to not take these things so seriously, right? So anything that comes in, through these skandhas, so that's one of the goals of, you can say, one of the goals of the viewing or realizing emptiness and everything is that, don't take it too seriously because it's all empty, okay? So, or you can say it's all subjective, right? So we should realize the empty nature of everything, right, sunyata? So, and so therefore, I mean, practicing the 6 paramitas, for example, 6 paramitas helps us in that way, okay? Now, so based on this experience, we have an attachment and desire for durian, right? Each time we smell it and eat it, we kind of reinforce this experience, unless, something changes, right? Typically, we'll just be reinforcing that good experience. Thus, we are conditioning our consciousness to respond favorably to the taste and smell, even if we just have a thought, if we think about it, right? It doesn't have to be. We don't have to be in the presence of the durian. Even if we just think about it, sometimes it's, wow, yeah, that it can make your mouth water, right? It can, whatever. So that's all that conditioning that's going on, right? Now, okay. So actually, all right, not so fast here. Unfortunately, the pleasure didn't last long as you wake up from your fantasy daydream. Remember, you were just imagining that. All right, so call it wishful thinking, or perhaps King Durian actually put a spell on you. All right, either way, now that you've come to your senses, it's time to get a true taste of reality. All right, so as you put the spoonful of durian into your mouth, you realize that this thing, it definitely must be an alien egg, right? At least this is now your idea of what an alien egg is like, right? And it also smells like rotten alien egg, okay? And on top of that, now you tasted it, it tastes like pig manure marinated in oud skunk, that's skunk perfume, right? With an aftertaste of sweaty, stinky socks. Okay, so, okay, now, well, I'm assuming that no one knows what the taste of sweaty, stinky socks is. Okay, so, but anyways, okay, so upon deeper consideration, oh, no, actually, sorry, there's no time for that. You have an immediate reaction, right? Now trying your best to remove the nasty aftertaste, all right? So, how long is this aftertaste going to last? You know, what did I do to deserve a punishment that's worse than death? So I will never forget this experience. It's the worst taste and smell ever. All right. So that now you actually you record this bad experience. And so, well, you have hatred, resentment, whatever, and aversion. Okay, so this is also a type of attachment. It's kind of like the negative attachment is the opposite, but you want to avoid it. Okay, and so you make a note to yourself, says, oh, yeah, when I smell durian, I'm getting as far away as possible, okay? Maybe calling 911, okay? So now, so in this case, you know, we have aversion, all right? So now a single negative experience is all it takes, right? Taste is subjective, of course, right? Just like all the other sense perceptions. One person may love it, another may hate it. And in the case of durian, actually the reaction or feeling is it's weird. It's like either one extreme or the other. You know, they either love it or they hate it. I don't think there's anyone who's kind of in the middle, right? And so expectations also can also condition our response, just like actual experiences can. So even though maybe you don't have an experience of it, maybe someone told you, or like right now, maybe this is the first time you heard about durian or learned about. And after hearing, a description, you know, what it smells like, what it tastes like, maybe that put an expectation in your mind already, okay? And that will also condition your response next time maybe you encounter it, or, you know, someone says, hey, would you like some durian? You might say, no way. Okay, so, but, all right, so anyways, this is kind of like, tried to use a funny example, I guess. You know, so I'm sorry if I offended any durian lovers out there, or even King Durian himself. Okay, so this is basically, you know, so this you can see what's happening here. This in our in the example you can see that in our sixth consciousness we're trying to associate the sensation with something that we know. And in the seventh consciousness, that's where deeper thinking or considerations is going on, okay? And that's where our feelings, our deep-seated feelings will then develop here. You know, this is because this is really the seat of subjectivity, okay? Because our ego is here. And and so we're going to kind of figure out, oh, this is, you know, how am I going to react to these things, all right? All right. Okay, so yeah, let me see. I just did this one example here. Another example of, you know, very simple here. Money, right? This is something we deal with every day. And so you can say, yeah, some people, they talk, oh, the smell of money, right? Or the feel of money, the bills, right? Or the sound, right? And in the casino, you hit the jackpot, they clink, 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 right? The coins, or the sight, okay? So they probably, let's see, probably no taste. Okay, I don't think you can taste the money, but anyways, yeah, in our conception, we say, simple things like, oh, how much money is there, but we also equated money with wealth, with comfort, with enjoyment, with pleasure, okay, with all the things that we can get with money, right? So we kind of make that connection, say, oh, when I see money, I think about these things: wealth, comfort, enjoyment, pleasure, okay, or paying the bills or whatever. Now, at a deeper level, we actually put a more a value, but this is kind of more subjective value on the money, right? We say, and typically it's we treasure, we value money, right? Because of what it can get us, right? So we think more is better, right? So now here we're going to have developed the Yowei, the intention, a motive, right? The actions will be driven by desires, emotions, greed, for money. And so, and what type of considerations, we might think about is like, whether maybe I should work 90-hour weeks, or work, 2 or 3 jobs so I can make more money and basically live that dream life of, extravagance. Okay. But on the other hand, there's also that we can also suffer, right, due to not having enough money, because maybe again because we value money so highly that when we don't have enough of it, we feel bad. We feel like we're suffering. Okay, we can't enjoy it. Or if we lose money, right, that happens a lot. Whether it's like stock market trades or whatever. So it can go, so we can also suffer as a result. The experience, of course, depends on what we do, as we pursue our desires for more money. We can potentially plant karmic seeds, or as we spend the money on things, right, on vices, or we try to get money through underhanded or illicit or illegal means, whatever, stealing, even killing for money, all these nasty things, bad things that can happen potentially. Obviously, we can also do good things too. We can give money in terms of charity, right? We can give money to others, to help others as well. But anyways, this is how we operate. I mean, it's through these 5 skandhas. This is everything that we do is you can kind of go through this process of the 5 skandhas. All right, but it's basically, so in this example, so money, it's really a neutral tool. It's neutral, right? There's nothing good or bad about it. But the value we place on it, right, that's our view, affects how we use it or try to gain it. Okay, inevitably, it will end up creating karma. Right? If we go to extremes, then we probably end up creating more serious karma. Like we might, go to extreme measures to get money. Okay. Now, subject-object dualities, subjectivity, attachments, and desires, they all affect our views, our thoughts, our feelings, our intentions, and our actions. It is all part of the 5 skandhas. That's why we must learn to let go of attachments, reduce our desires, get rid of the false self, that ego. That's the subject-object duality, in order to break the vicious cycle. Okay, so whereas the bodhisattva, maybe they can realize emptiness, from starting from the, with the form. Let me see, is that, form, sensation, and then everything else follows, right? Because it kind of starts from here, from form, sensation, and it goes up the stack, so to speak. If you can break off the lower ones, then the top ones won't exist. However, for us, like I said earlier, it's very difficult to achieve that because we don't have that wisdom. We're not at that level of wisdom, so we have to work kind of both directions from the bottom. I mean, we accept that concept, if you will, the emptiness, but to make it real, we have to kind of work from this other end. So that's why we talk about letting go of attachments and all that kind of stuff. Trying to get rid of our ego, not have desires. Okay. Okay, let me see. We'll just skip this because basically you can apply this skandhas, to everything. Okay, not just these objects, but words. Right, we hear words from people. Anything. Okay, so anything that's coming through our senses. Right, so we don't really need to go through another example. We don't have time here, but I just wanted to get to here first. So this is that last phrase in that first section. So do ichie ku. Okay, so basically do is like to pass, get over, or you can say transcend. Okay, so this ku and okay, yeah. I mean, it's suffering, hardship, affliction, right? Disasters, trials, adversity, trouble. That kind of mean. So it's basically transcend all suffering, which is samsara. So all suffering, karma, and reincarnation is the result of experiencing reality according to the five skandhas. Right? It's subjective. Right? It's dualistic. The subject-object duality. When we can realize the sunyata, right, or the emptiness nature of things, right, our mind will not be influenced or aroused, right? The xing lulu budong. So earlier we said that the problem was qi xing dong nian, which is arousing the mind, okay, or the heart and mind, right, or having it be influenced. And actually, when it's aroused or influenced, you can say that's the mind is defiled. Okay, so if we can realize the emptiness, then our mind will not be defiled. Okay, it will not give rise to thoughts. Okay, or any intentions or feelings or desires. Right, ignorance, delusion, desire, attachment, etc. They do not arise as a result. Right, and we will not create karma. All right, so that's the ultimate. What we're trying to achieve. Of course, we're not going to get there in one step. Okay, so this takes practice. Okay. All right. So that's. Let me see if. Okay. Well, because of the time, I think we'll stop here, and then I guess we'll continue next week with it. Basically, next week, we're gonna talk about this. Okay. So, all right. If I had said anything wrong or not satisfactory, or if I had offended anyone, I asked the Buddhas and everyone for their forgiveness, and also I asked Transcendental Masters and lectors for their corrections. Thank you.